If you've been following me for a while, or have seen more than one of my videos, you probably know my stance on the Jurassic World movies. I can't stand them. They're full of plot conveniences, characters making stupid decisions that lead to the mass murder of innocent people, and worst of all, scientific inaccuracies. And it's not like they're chill ones either, like some dinosaurs having feathers in real life but not the movies. Like, those things are pretty recent discoveries and I don't mind too much. It's when the sizes are greatly exaggerated for the sake of a spectacle and when the dinos act completely differently to their real life counterparts. Because people take these movies at face value, think everything in them is 100% real, and try to correct people online with the only source being that they saw big dinosaur on big screen. There's also the issues with the title of a movie called Jurassic Park when most of the iconic dinosaurs in the movie are from the Cretaceous period, but I'll probably have a stroke if I go on about this for too long. Now, having a channel name like The Animal Man, you might think it's a bit weird that I'm even spending this long talking about movies instead of, well, you know, an animal. But I do consider myself to be a fan of movies as well as animals, and there's no better way to combine those two hyperfixations than torturing myself to make this video. I'll be dissecting these movies not only for their terrible writing or just general disease-causing moments, but also for the insane amount of dinosaur inaccuracies that plague, well, all 6 of these movies. But I'll only be talking about the Jurassic World trilogy for now. Also, don't get me wrong, the original Jurassic Park is a great movie. Often while making videos, I'll use clips from the movie and actually enjoy watching through them while deciding which parts to cut out and use. And even though it does have its fair share of plot holes, like the T-Rex somehow escaping despite there being a massive fucking wall it needed to climb and then 2 children being able to resist said T-Rex, the movie's other positive factors and general entertainment value allow me to put my annoyances aside. Now, this video will likely anger a certain demographic, that being the avid Jurassic World lovers. And I like to allow the people within this demographic to either click off the video now or leave an angry comment if they haven't already, calling me all types of horrendous slurs and insults or even just to threaten my life. Now, I need to emphasize, I do not fucking care about the lore where the Spino is endangered and therefore wouldn't be another movie. Can't they make more? Or whatever other dumb shit the director made up after the fact when people started making fun of their movie. Also, Universal Studios loves to absolutely curb stomp anyone who dare try to use any clips from their movies on YouTube. And I'm not about to go up against an entire corporation spinning facts about fair use laws, so I'm gonna just use clips from the Lego game and maybe some other dinosaur games instead. This means that I'll be referencing a lot of scenes that aren't represented accurately in the game, so you'll have to use your imagination sometimes. Apologies to anyone with aphantasia. I mean, I'll try and make the clips relevant, but it's not always gonna be possible. Everyone got all that? Let's get ready to be miserable while we rip apart these fucking mass-produced Hollywood ball-busting abominations that dare to be labeled as movies. The first Jurassic World is definitely the best of the 3, a statement that can be taken as either high praise or a harrowing foreshadow of unrelenting nightmares to come. For me, it's more of the latter. I saw it in cinemas on opening weekend because I was like 12 and borderline autistic. I saw big dinosaurs and loved it. However, I am no longer 12, no comment on the autism, and I struggled to get through a rewatch of this movie without the help of my friend Jim. The movie starts like any other, with the title cards of various studios, and then we get a 60-second long shot that pans between 2 CGI eggs while generic text states the names of the fucking studios we just saw again before zooming in on a slimy lizard in the first CGI egg while dramatic music plays. Then the screen is overtaken by glare like you just looked directly at the sun while we hear a weird googly roar sound effect. What the fuck? This is a good introduction to the movie's editing style, which is fucking horrendous and borderline incomprehensible at times. A style which I can only attribute to the director, Colin Trevorrow's, however the fuck you pronounce it, sheer incompetence, or honestly just lack of care. Probably knew he didn't need to try for this movie to make money, and he was right, because it made $500 million in its opening weekend. The screen glare then fades into snow as we get a jump scare bird foot with a stomping sound effect. Get it? You're supposed to think it's a dinosaur, but it's a little birdie. Had to be a CGI birdie, not a real one, because that's too hard. We gotta make room for the dinosaurs, we gotta get to fucking Chris Pratt and fucking businesswoman and fuck. We're then introduced to Gray, a heavily autism-coded character obsessed with dinosaurs as he looks through one of those picture camera things that cavemen used to play with. Like seriously, which kid in 2015 was using these? The mum character then comes in and confiscates the medieval device and tells him to get in the car. We're then introduced to Zach, a 16-year-old who looks like he's 25, who's saying goodbye to his girlfriend who he clearly hates, which is further evidenced by him flaunting his negative riz to anything with breasts throughout the movie. The dad says his first of like 5 lines in the movie, and we're treated to Beats product placement, and they drive off to the airport. As the fuck-ass children walk off after an extremely ominous line,
and remember, something chases you.
the parents heavily imply that they're getting a divorce. A plot point that will be extremely unimportant going forward and be mentioned a total of like 3 times after this. Gray asks his brother dumbass questions and Zach is treated like an asshole for being pissed off and decides to take his anger out by staring at women. If it seems like I'm rushing through this, it's because the movie is too. At the 5-minute mark, which by the way includes the title cards and the minute-long egg shot, the 2 main characters first get to Isla Nublar, or Isla Nublar. Nublar. Anyway, we're then introduced to Zara, the movie's royal bitch who gets shit on the whole fucking movie for no reason until her extremely violent death. Ray then sadly asks where Claire is, which leads me to one of my biggest problems with this movie, and that's the portrayal that Claire is an asshole for doing her job and not being able to spend every second with her nephews. She literally has to get sponsors for their new dinosaur, manage park security, as well as keep her workers in line. And it's not like she's even that close with Zach and Gray either. They literally mentioned later in the movie that she hasn't seen them for 7 years and she's treated like a cunt for not knowing their exact age. Who the fuck is even that close with their aunt? I don't even know if I have one. Gray's an asshole to random people by pushing through a crowd just to see the main gates, and Zara explains how their aunt has given them all the best shit for free, to which Gray could not give a fuck and is in a rush for some reason despite being on the way to the hotel. I guess the theme song was playing the whole time and they needed the chorus to line up with an overly long establishing shot of the theme park. And this shot brings up some more questions. First off, that's the mosasaur enclosure, right? How the fuck is that fence supposed to stop it from just eating people whenever it wants? We're shown that it's more than capable of jumping onto the footpath later in the movie. Is that fence really the only thing stopping this gigantic monster? What about the monorail train thing that goes over it? Are they just leaving this all up to chance? We're then introduced to Claire, played by Bryce Dallas Texas. We know she's Claire because she just blatantly tells the fucking audience. Colin then pops off with the editing again, going from this establishing shot of Claire to a black screen, and then elevator doors open to reveal Claire. Again, but this time uncomfortably close.
Welcome to Jurassic World.
Why is she saying this? I know she's talking to the investors, but are they right behind the door? How did she know they'd be there? Are they facing the elevator waiting? Or are they just looking at other shit? What the fuck? Claire starts explaining random business bullshit to the investors as she tours them through her sex dungeon. She goes on about kids being bored by dinosaurs and they look at a stegosaurus the way they would an elephant. This is dumb. Coming from someone who's done plenty of work at a zoo, I think I've got a pretty good understanding of kids' behavior towards animals. They go insane over the peacocks that aren't even in a fucking enclosure. Sure, there's kind of like a disinterest towards animals like giant tortoises and some unmoving reptiles, but the elephant enclosure is always lined with a wall of children because bigger tends to mean more interesting. And this bitch is saying these kids, who are the primary dinosaur-loving demographic, are somehow uninterested in dinosaurs after they've only been around for what, like 20 years? Modern zoos have been around for more than double that amount of time, and yet I still see people and children interested. Plus, throughout the movie's many establishing shots, courtesy of Colin, we see children loving every fucking exhibit in the park, meaning this movie never even had to happen. So what this dialogue conveys to me is that this flawed line of logic is the primary driving force behind the deaths of hundreds of people, leaving thousands more traumatized for life and cost millions, if not billions of dollars of lawsuits. And people ask why I hate this fucking franchise. It's because of stupid bullshit like this that if any thought was put into it, the whole thing could have been avoided. But forget all that. Imagine that in this universe, where Beetlejuice is their Stephen Hawking, people are bored of dinosaurs. Why the fuck would you make it a hyper-intelligent killing machine that can grow bigger than a T-Rex instead of starting with, I don't know, a fucking herbivore? Why not a Stegosaurus mixed with a Triceratops? If kids are bored by a Stegosaurus, why not change it a little? Gene splicing is what they've done since the beginning of the franchise, and it surely wouldn't be that difficult to make more hybrids. The investors even say they want to be thrilled, and like, they definitely could be, simply from the principle of a genetic hybrid, something that has never been achieved before. They're even surprised that they were able to do it at all. And while they're discussing dinosaur sex, we get a jump scare from Henry Wu, who spouts some exposition about the Indominus, and Claire says that every time they unveil a new dinosaur, the park's attendant spikes, and they get global news coverage. Which just further pushes my point of why the fuck they had to make it a deadly carnivore hybrid. Surely you would leave that for later, even if it didn't fucking kill everyone. Every hybrid released after that would look like pussy shit in comparison.
That's basic marketing.
Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, we were 8 minutes into the movie. And we're being treated to another long-ass establishing shot of things we've already seen. We cut to Gray rushing through the park to get to this weird science hub, which is in the main pyramid building or whatever the fuck. And despite him being at the door before Zach and British Lady, the next shot is of both of them walking in together. Also, I just noticed this. They're on a tropical island, right? How the fuck are they wearing these clothes without insta-dying of heat stroke? They look at some dinosaur hologram that conveniently spawns as soon as they walk in and looks at them, and we cut to kids uncovering dinosaur bones in this weird archaeology exhibit, which leads me to ask if the bones get covered after every use. Are the bones real? Surely they'd be delicate and you wouldn't allow children to go anywhere near them. Is this some kind of special behind-the-scenes tour? Also, do they uncover this entire massive skeleton in one day? That would have taken fucking ages. We hear a voice explaining a few things about the dinosaurs, like their extinction and some interesting facts. And one of the mentioned facts is that a sauropod, which is the long-necked fucker, being able to use its tail as a weapon. This will be important later, so keep this in mind. Gray then flexes his knowledge of nucleotides at a 10th grade level, except the actor clearly doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he says guanine and adenine instead of guanine and adenine. Stupid prick. Also, it's a test your knowledge interactive standard that has no wrong answers, and the movie treats him like he's a genius for being able to do this. He says that they're the same 4 things in everything that ever lived, which, like, yeah, it's more correct to say the 4 main components of DNA, though. This is probably a good time to mention that I major in biology at uni, and of course don't actually expect this kid to know anything, and I'm just being a dickhead for the sake of entertainment. I do, however, expect the writers to remove shit scenes like this and cut down this horrendously paced movie. Claire suddenly calls out to them from across this busy, person-filled room, and Zach and Grace somehow hear her, despite that probably not being possible, but whatever. She then establishes that they haven't seen each other in like 7 years, and Zach makes a dickhead remark when Claire doesn't know how long it's been. Like, why does he give a shit? He clearly doesn't want to be here. And what 16-year-old gets pissy that his aunt isn't spending every second with him? She's literally at work, bro. Calm the fuck down. Then she offers to take them into the control room the next day, which for Gray would be fucking sick. Fuck, for anyone it would be. But instead he gets all sad like the whiny bitch he is, and Claire asks if they have bedtimes. A fair question when talking to children, but it's treated like she's a terrible person. Next, we're in the control room, and Claire asks the 2 least important characters in the movie for some statistics on how the day is going, like visitor and incident count. These guys are so forgettable, I don't even know their fucking names, and I'm not about to look it up, so I'm just going to call them Nerd Guy and Lady. Claire then roasts Nerd Guy's shirt and workspace when he's mid-sit rep, which is extremely unprofessional, and this is the first case of vicious nostalgia. Nerd Guy says how the first park was legit, despite it not even opening before there was a disaster, but okay, bro. He also says they didn't need genetic hybrids, but aren't all the dinosaurs hybrids because they used other animals' DNA to fill in gaps in their genomes? While he's explaining himself, Claire cuts him off like he's the one out of line and drops an agonizing product placement for Verizon Wireless. Nerd Guy follows suit and plugs Pepsi into Tostitos instead of doing his job, and Claire throws a hissy fit that technology didn't work as intended, so a dinosaur got loose, even though the situation was properly handled. Then she takes out a menopausal rage on Nerd Guy's desk filled with dinosaurs and even calls calls it chaotic. My desk is honestly no better, so I kind of feel bad for him here. Another 400 establishing shots later, and we're introduced to Simon Masrani, the park's owner. He's flying a helicopter, and despite being 2 days away from full accreditation, fucking sucks at flying. I guess they established this so that when he gets bombarded by pterosaurs, it makes sense that he gets fucking destroyed, because any professional pilot is well trained in dinosaur defense. So stupid. He asks about guest satisfaction and animal well-being, and seems not to care about making money, which is a pretty accurate attitude of zoo owners, at least the ones that I've met. Claire says there's no real way to measure the emotional state of the dinosaurs, but there actually are ways of getting qualitative results, which, by the way, means a non-numerical result and more of a yes, the animals are happy, or no, they keep eating each other and attacking small children. He also asks to see the new dinosaur. Like, how the fuck has he not seen this gigantic thing yet? He fucking owns the place. This scene really solidifies Masrani as my favorite character. He just seems to want to enjoy living and wants every other living thing to be happy too. He's not overly concerned with money because there aren't any other dinosaur parks, which is weird because of how successful this place is, and knows the money will always be there. Too bad he has like 10 minutes of screen time. Colin then treats us to 1,000 more establishing shots, and the characters land at the Indominus' enclosure, and the assistant pilot vomits in a bush, similar to what I do at 3 a.m. in Hyde Park. Masrani asks why they're still building the enclosure, to which Claire then claims that the Indominus is bigger than they expected, despite Henry Roux saying literally that same day that it would be 50 feet long and fully grown. So, is that measurement a new estimate, or did they plan for it to be that big? Wouldn't saying that it's bigger than expected be a good selling point to the investors if they wanted to be thrilled? Also, why the fuck did they not have an enclosure built before the dinosaur was even born? I swear that's like they wanted it to fucking murder everyone. Claire continues to say that the dinosaur started to anticipate where the food would come from, and that a handler nearly lost an arm, and a bunch more handlers threatened to quit if their safety couldn't be guaranteed. Okay, first off, no shit that this highly intelligent animal would be able to anticipate where its food comes from. Nearly any normal zoo animal does that, and you can see them pacing around the door the keepers come out of. I understand that they may not have known that it'd be super smart, but it's a massive carnivore that has raptor DNA, and everyone knows that raptors are smart, so they should have at least seen this coming. And secondly, why the fuck are you feeding this gigantic beast by hand? That's how you die. I feel like losing an arm is an understatement for the size of this thing too. It later just eats people in one bite. And finally, jobs like animal handling can never have your safety guaranteed due to animals being, well, fucking animals. They can be unpredictable. If these fucking workers are looking for a job where they're in no danger at all, why the fuck did they start working at a dinosaur zoo? Go work with fucking snails or something, for fuck's sake. Masrani points out broken glass that's never present in the wide shots and asks like 50 million questions about this dinosaur. How has he not checked up on it until now? He didn't even know the fucking color. This actually leads me to talk about the design of the Indominus. It's actually one of the only things I like about this movie. It sits in this weird, like, uncanny valley of how we expect dinosaurs to look where, yeah, it looks like a dinosaur, but a few subtle things about it make it look more horrifying. Namely, its longer arms that it can use to stand on all fours and even be used as extra weaponry, and its spines and mouth that can open so wide it looks like it's unhinging its jaw like a snake. This is one of the only positive things I'll say about this fucking movie. Fuck, even this whole trilogy. So if you're a fan of these movies, I don't know, this one's for you, I guess. Anyway, back to blind hatred. Yeah, Masrani doesn't have fucking basic logic and reasoning and can't just assume that the Indominus broke the glass. How the fuck are they gonna fix that? If they take the glass off, the Indominus is just gonna go hog wild on them. So is there somewhere else that they can put it? Like a spare paddock? Or even a cage? Out of all the establishing shots that Colin blessed us with, I can't see another paddock where they can dump this thing while they do repairs. Speaking of which, how the fuck did they plan on displaying this thing? In a normal enclosure like the T-Rex? Or in this weird box? Masrani seems surprised that the dinosaur can see through the glass, and Claire explains that it can see thermal radiation. A detail that will be entirely forgotten several times throughout the movie. Also, I find it funny when he's surprised that it's white. Like, he seems like he's racist. Also, why is the Indominus eating its twin seen as evil or a sign that it's deranged or whatever? Animals do this shit all the time. Sharks fucking eat each other in the womb. It's normal. Masrani then tells Claire to talk to someone named Owen Grady about the safety of the paddock, because he's got experience with smart dinosaurs, and this is followed by my least favorite scenes in this fucking movie. But before that, we have establishing shots of bushes with kookaburra sounds overlaid. This is a tropical island near Costa Rica. Kookaburras do not fucking live here. We get a jump scare from a pig and are introduced to the raptors and Chris Pratt's character, Owen. I also want to say how he does not look at all like an Owen, but that doesn't really matter. The CGI on the raptors has also aged fucking terribly. Also, we've got another scientific inaccuracy. Velociraptors didn't look like that, and they weren't nearly that big. They're actually around half a meter tall and about 2 meters long in real life, and were most likely covered in feathers. The author of the original book said that he based the raptors on Deinonychus for unexplained reasons. But even still, Deinonychus wasn't that size. The Utah raptor was, though. So I'm confused as to why they even call them velociraptors when they're based off Deinonychus and are the size of Utah raptors. Like, why not just make them Utah raptors? They established in the third movie, God help me, that they're mixed with monitor lizards. This is a monitor lizard. How does mixing a velociraptor with this fucking thing make them 8,000 times their actual size? These things evolved into chickens, not emus and ostriches. Fuck these fucking raptors! Oh my god! I'm in physical pain talking about this shit, bro. Also, don't get too attached to these raptors, because most of them get fucking murdered like it's nothing. It's probably for the best, though, because this movie's target demographic can barely count to 4, and it'd probably be too hard for them to keep track of so many characters. Also, Owen uses his clicker thing completely wrong. He uses it to get the raptors' attention, but in real life, when training animals, they're actually supposed to have a meaning, like when one of them follows a command correctly. They can hear his voice well enough, so he doesn't need a fucking clicky thing for them to look at him. He also speaks to them like they can understand English. I mean, I know that later in the series, Blue can understand complex emotions and language, but for now, they're all illiterate. We're introduced to this French guy whose name I don't know and this fat guy whose name I don't care about, and they celebrate the raptors' training even though they literally moved like 5 meters, ate some dead rats, and ran off. Not super impressive if you ask me. The rotund, non-French guy says Owen has the raptors eating out of his palm despite the literal opposite happening, and I mentally check out for the rest of their conversation every time I've watched it. I think they talk about paychecks and training, but I don't know. I don't care. His roundness says that he needs a field test to see what the raptors can do, to which Owen says that they're wild animals and they'd be terrible in the field. And like, he's right. Even with service animals, it requires a certain personality that's hard to find for them to be even remotely successful. And these service animals aren't capable of killing a large group of armed personnel in a few seconds. This plan is insanely stupid. Even if you put that stupidity aside, the dinosaurs aren't immune to bullets, as shown later in the movie. They basically boil down to expensive meat shields with teeth. But the movie treats this plan as stupid anyway, so I won't spend too much time on it. Also, Owen is from the Navy. How do you go from that to training dinosaurs in a theme park? What skills did he specifically learn during his time in the armed forces that made him qualified for training extinct animals? Seems like a weird career progression, but I guess this is just to establish why he has heinous plot armor for the rest of the series. This shit goes on for fucking ages until a worker falls into the raptor cage while trying to catch a pig. Why the fuck would anyone care that a pig is loose in this raptor enclosure anyway? Is there a global pig shortage that I'm not aware of? Why spend time talking about dinosaurs in the army instead of why this minimum wage worker needs to risk his life for a pig? Is it really such a big deal that this stupid pink fuck gets ripped apart by raptors? Also, this dude falls from like 15 meters and seems completely fine. Surely he'd break his fucking back or at least be knocked out. Owen then makes his first of many dumbass decisions and risks his life for this stupid worker by entering the enclosure to try and save him, even though the raptors would probably just kill them both. Wouldn't be nearly as heroic then, would it? Owen then displays his desire to make everything as difficult as possible by telling the armed guards with non-lethal weapons to hold their fire. Why they even bother listening to him, I have no idea, but we'll go with it. If that was always an option, why would he even bother going in himself? I know he says they'll never trust him again, but it's not like he's the one shocking them. Dinosaurs probably weren't even that smart, so they definitely wouldn't understand what the fuck happened to them. And if they did, I think it'd be unlikely they'd blame Owen for it. Anyway, he goes in and does the thing from the trailer and runs straight up to these extremely untrained animals and somehow doesn't become the world's dumbest amputee. Okay, look, this scene has taken me around like 2 weeks to write about because I just keep having to take breaks. I wrote like 2,000 words for about a minute of movie and could have written more. It's my least favorite scene by far, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. But I will use this time to talk about the fuck-ass Lego game because I have a decent amount to say about it, and it was during this part of the game that I started to get annoyed at it. Jurassic World is a weird concept to transfer to a Lego game marketed towards children, given that people die violent deaths pretty consistently, and because it's somewhat based in reality, unlike something like Star Wars. A weird thing I noticed is that a lot of the voice lines in the game are taken straight from the movies, and it sounds super fucking weird and distracting. Not that I give a shit about being focused and thoroughly engaged by a children's game about Scandinavian plastic toys, but whatever.
I could just persuade you to sign off on the park. I could get back on schedule.
It sounds less weird with the levels based on the new movies, which I think is because of the audio quality being better than the originals, but when you know the movies even slightly, the lines are pretty weird and out of place at times.
Evacuate the island.
Like they could have done what the Jurassic World Builder games did, where they get the voice actors to sound kind of similar to say the lines. Well, I mean, they did, but they only speak during the missions and not the cutscenes.
It's all right. You're safe.
For now.
Also, maybe it's just an age thing, but the supposed humor in this game fucks me off. I've never been a fan of ha-ha funny random humor, like the numerous hot dog or pig gags. I didn't mind the jokes in the Skywalker saga, so I think it's just an issue with this game, although I did think there were some funny visual things every now and then. I had fun during the game finding glitches, like making the character model spaz out on awkward geometry or trying my best to get out of bounds, but other than that, I was super bored throughout the whole thing. Anyway, where was I? We cut to children riding baby dinosaurs, which would actually be super unethical. Elephant riding is considered to be unethical and has been phased out of most zoos' attractions as it causes severe back pain for the elephants. So, these are kids, but the saddles would add most of the weight anyway, and these baby dinosaurs would definitely grow up to have the posture of a League of Legends player. Plus, if these kids piss off the dinosaurs, which kids are prone to doing in petting zoos, the dinos would fucking murder them. Triceratops are able to beat a T-Rex in a fight and will most certainly gore a child if provoked and given the chance. They're also shown later to be far heavier than people when a pterodactyl struggles to pick one up compared to how they easily grab people, meaning the handles wouldn't be able to do shit to stop it. The sizes of these dinosaurs are pretty accurate, but they would have grown extremely quickly, especially in the case of the sauropods, so it leaves me asking how often they cycle through these babies before they're too big for the petting zoo. Also, I can only assume the little two-legged things are Gallimimus, which would have been more than capable of poking a child's eye out with his beak, or even just escaping through the fence. Then we reunite with our favorite pieces of shit, and they decide to run away from the British lady for unknown reasons. They're able to do whatever they want even while she's there, so it can't be because of her being restrictive. It's also Zach's idea that he suggests right after saying everything sucks and he doesn't want to do baby things. So the boys escape into the crowd and run to the T-Rex feeding, where people gladly watch a goat be devoured and children maniacally chant for the dinosaur to eat the goat, which is dumb because dinosaurs can't understand English. Zach has a phone call with the mum who's in a meeting or something, I guess for the divorce, and the mum gets upset that Claire isn't with them. I'm not going to go on that rant again, so I'll move on, but she does call Claire and tell her off before crying for no reason. Fucking bitch. Oh god, now it's this bit where Claire meets Owen, who I thought was at the raptor enclosure like 5 minutes ago, but okay. Owen lives in an absolute shithole of a house, despite there being hotel rooms he could probably ask for. Although upon doing more research, a bunch of theme park workers at Disneyland sleep in their cars and are forced into sex work just to make ends meet, and the highest salary of a Disneyland employee is less than 6 figures a year. And even if he gets a zookeeper's salary, he's paid fuck all, around $16 US or 26 Australian per hour. I currently make more than that working at a shithole of a pub. pub. I retract my previous statement. Owen lives in relative luxury. But that doesn't take away from the cancer-contracting conversation these two have about their dating history. They fucking act like they dated for ages, but it was just one failed date where Claire instantly decided she didn't like Owen, and now Owen is pissy. The most unrealistic part of this movie is that someone that looks like him struggles to pull and gets hung up on this weird ranger bitch that he's completely incompatible with. Maybe he starts spouting shit about gay conversion or something. He also makes a bunch of sexually suggestive comments to her, which is actually considered workplace harassment, and he could be fired by her and could lose his house and be forced to become a prostitute. Claire does what Masrani asks and tells the crispy rat about the Indominus and how Masrani thinks Owen can control it. Another few shitty comments back and forth later, and we move on to the Mosasaurus bit. Every fact the presenter says is correct, but the size is incredibly over-exaggerated. I'm sure everyone knows this by now. The biggest Mosasaur is around 17 meters or 56 feet long, and this one is not that. Zack is looking at his phone before it gets destroyed by the splash from the dinosaur, and the soundstage seats sink below the water, and everyone can see the Mosasaur underwater. Why it doesn't try to break through the glass and eat everyone, I have no idea, but I don't care enough to question it. Also, what happens if it tries to eat the presenter? Jurassic World doesn't condone OSHA, I guess. It also makes whale noises, even though it's related to snakes and lizards, and probably wouldn't be able to do that. Zack's BPD then comes in clutch, and he suddenly decides to have fun with his little brother that he clearly hates, despite being the wettest a human being has ever been.
I'm the wettest a human being has ever been.
That whole scene was like a minute long and did nothing except set up the Mosasaurus as a plot convenience for whenever the movie needs it next. And before we know it, we're back with Claire and Owen with some fantastic Mercedes product placement.
It reflects the same things as the characters. They're sophisticated, sexy, smart, and it really fits in perfectly to the movie.
Owen makes fun of the name Indominus Rex, despite that not even being a bad name at all. And Claire is right, like the name tells you everything you need to know about the dinosaur, because everyone just associates the word Rex with the Tyrannosaurus. I guess this is just the movie trying to act cool if audiences tried to make fun of the name. Like, yeah, we know it's stupid, haha. We didn't try and make a good name, haha. I have so much respect for movies for making something cool, or even lame, and being confident that it will come across the way that they intended. An example of this is with Hobie Brown or Spider-Punk in Across the Spider-Verse, where Miles asks how he's even cooler under his mask, and Hobie's character design actually aligns with the character's reaction. If they weren't as confident in the design of Hobie, Miles would have said something like, man, I bet this guy thinks he's so cool or some shit. I fucking hate when movies do this. Then Claire says the Indominus is actually called Archaeornithomimus, which is the name of a real dinosaur and translates to ancient bird mimic, and looks nothing like the Indominus. Why the fuck did they name it that? Why not just make something up? But even still, the scientific names of hybridized organisms are literally just the names of the original derived organisms with an X between them. And if we go by that logic, it'd be a fat fucking name. If we go by the wiki, which I know I said I'd never look at, but just like an MDMA addict, I'm already brain damaged enough, so what's a little more gonna do? And it lists that the Indominus is made from Velociraptor, Carnotaurus, Giganotosaurus, or Giganotosaurus if you're not an archaeologist, Therizinosaurus, Deinosuchus, and a bunch of others that are known and some that aren't. That also doesn't include the tree frog and cuttlefish gene. All of these genetic inclusions were for specific reasons, like long arms with the Theri and tree frog DNA for climatic adaptation. But like, how the fuck did they get the specific genes for each of these traits to work? How did they specifically isolate the genes and know that they'd all work together without killing the Indominus? The wiki even says that the tree frog DNA didn't even work the way they wanted to, and instead allowed it to remove its thermal signature. And people tell me to read the fucking wiki so the movies can make more sense. This literally made it worse and somehow even more fucking stupid, for fuck's sake. Owen asks what it's made of instead of looking at the wiki like the dumb prick that he is, and everyone thinks that the Indominus escaped, despite having extremely limited information that proves that. Apparently a scratched wall means it climbed out. Owen even questions if this is possible later in the fucking enclosure. So instead of looking at the cameras first to see if it actually did climb out, which I thought there was a security guy for that, or checking its tracker and staying safe inside the control room, everyone panics and Claire shows off the Mercedes' incredible off-road driving ability.
Driving the Mercedes was an incredible experience. And it was kind of amazing that they let us use these new cars.
Also, how did Claire not notice a lack of footprints or literally any evidence that the Indominus escaped while on her drive to the control room? Of course, being the idiots they are, security, along with the crispy rat himself, walk into the enclosure without confirmation of whether or not the dinosaur is still in there. How is this dinosaur so smart as to devise a plan to pretend to have escaped when it probably could have, known they wouldn't have found its tracker, which it is aware of because it scratches it out later in the movie, and then knows to block the small door so that people try to escape through the giant gate that it can fit through and then finally escape? How did it know that would work? What if they didn't open the gate? Would it just eat everyone inside or continue to try scare someone enough to open the big gate eventually? This is a big gamble with a bunch of extremely unlikely events to predict for a fucking oversized lizard, and it somehow worked. I guess I must have known everyone in this universe is fucking stupid. After a convenient radio cut to build tension and stock action music, thanks again Colin, a security guy gets murdered and somehow Claire can hear it over the phone, and of course the Indominus gets out, somehow having the strength to destroy the giant gate, keeping it in there. It finds the rotund guard and has a good feed, and Owen decides that means he needs to cover himself in oil to mask his scent. But like, doesn't the Indominus have thermal vision? Did they forget about it? Then comes my girlfriend's favorite trope in these movies, where the big dinosaur gets really close to the main characters and roars at the ground.
Why is it roaring at the ground? down.
See? At least the CGI looks pretty decent here. Maybe they used an animatronic or something, because there are times where it looks fucking shit throughout the rest of the movie. Back in the control room, Claire tells everyone to stay calm, and Masrani flexes his supreme ability to lead by saying that situations like this are an eventuality, and they're all trained for this exact scenario. Then we get a 15-second shot of these super badass army guys grabbing tasers and non-lethal weapons, and it's not nearly as cool as the movie thinks it is, and after this, we're punished with more raptors. I'm gonna skip this bit as well. I actually want to live to the end of this video. Now we got the scene where Gray cries over the parents getting divorced, and Zach is a terrible brother, and every extra that has a pair of tits stares at him lustfully despite him being underage. This scene adds nothing to the movie, doesn't progress their characters at all, and I don't think the divorce is mentioned for the rest of the movie. Oh god, remember what I was talking about, the sauropods with the powerful tails? Yeah, this is why I needed you to remember it. An attraction at this park is canoeing down this river with sauropods in it, and that is so fucking dangerous, I don't know how it ever got approved by anyone. One flick from those tails, it could be caused by, well, literally anything, from a screaming child to a camera flash, can rip someone in half easily. Not to mention the stegosaurus that are more than capable of taking on a T-Rex. I get that they're keeping their distance, but so much can go wrong from the general stupidity of park visitors, and in this universe, everyone is stupid, so it's bound to happen at some point. Owen somehow gets into the control room without proper clearance and yells at Claire about the Indominus escaping, which is absolutely fair enough. He did almost die, but he doesn't seem to have any oil on him. I don't know, I guess it dried up. How did he get here without the Indominus noticing him? He definitely drove, because they said it was like 4 miles from the nearest attraction, and driving would make a fuck ton of noise that the Indominus would 100% notice. So what the fuck? Anyway, Claire says it must have been a technical malfunction, but we literally know that it wasn't. They just didn't check the tracker. They're so fucking dumb. Oh yeah, then all the army guys get destroyed, and I kind of like this scene. It's brutal and realistic for how a super smart dinosaur would act when threatened, using all its weaponry like its tail, arms, and mouth to annihilate everything in sight. Of course, it knowing where its tracker is and scratching it out is kind of dumb, but we're really doubling down on the smart lizard thing here, so I'll just forget about that. We're also shown that it can camouflage, another super useful ability that it will never use again. Owen then delivers the funniest lines in the movie. Seriously, I can't not laugh every time he demands that the island is evacuated for them to mount a machine gun on a commercial helicopter and fucking murder this giant dinosaur. Then we're back with the worst characters, and Gray is flexing his neurodivergency while Zach creepily stares at women. Gray is treated as crazy for loudly asking what he thinks will happen if he keeps staring, and Zach is mad because I guess he thought that would actually get him some pussy. They go in the gyrospheres, listen to an unfunny Jimmy Fallon skit, and Zach's multiple personalities pop off again as he decides to go out of bounds and makes fun of Gray for being a pussy. Why would Zach even bother? They got the alert to turn back around, and it's definitely in his character to ruin Gray's enjoyment and instantly return to the exit, but nah, he finds this destroyed gate that's broken for no apparent reason and goes through it. Then Gray decides it's about time he stops having a brain entirely, and of the clearly 4 dinosaurs in front of him, counts the one in the reflection of the glass as a 5th, and acts like Zach is dumb for not also counting that one. I can't even explain why this is stupid, but it just is, okay? He's also terrified of it when he points it out, but not when he casually says there are 5 dinosaurs. Like, he knew it was there, but why is he scared of it now and not earlier? Also, the Ankylosaurs are supposedly the most accurate dinosaurs in his movies. Probably because they lived absolutely fucking everywhere, and we found an almost complete fossil of them. Pretty hard to fuck that one up, but this is Universal Studios we're talking about, and Colin's galaxy brain ascends far beyond my mortal comprehension. The boys get jumped by the Indominus and should definitely have died, if not come out with broken bones or severe spine and neck injuries, but nah, they're fine. When they're flipped upside down, Zach doesn't notice a giant dinosaur right up against the glass because his phone is ringing, and Gray keeps calmly telling him to look instead of screaming so loud his vocal cords get destroyed. Also, why does Gray squirm when seeing the Indominus kill an Ankylosaur? He was so keen to see a T-Rex maul a goat earlier, I wouldn't think he'd even care that much. There's also the whole thing where the boys are facing up while the Indominus tries to destroy the gyrosphere, and then end up facing down when they unclip themselves. They run, and instead of the Indominus catching them like it absolutely would have been able to, the boys manage to jump off a cliff into some water and escape the Prius Rex. Get it? Because the Toyota Prius is a hybrid? Fuck you. Maybe if the Indominus didn't roar as it saw the boys running, it would have caught up. They cuddle in some mud that'll never show on their clothes again, and we cut to Owen and Claire getting upset over a dying dinosaur. When I was a kid, this scene was sad, but now I just find it annoying and stupid. I guess it sets up where Claire's character goes for the next movies, but I don't care at all. Also, KFC Deep Fried Rat carrying a bolt-action rifle is adorable, because the Indominus tanked several shotgun shots earlier and was completely unfazed. Hope you all like nostalgia, because this is the part of the movie where the plot doesn't want to progress and instead decides to focus on Jurassic Park paraphernalia, and the original theme plays behind this whole thing, and I fucking hate this shit. Can we move on quickly, please? Zach makes a torch that burns for fucking ages somehow, and the boys hotwire a dead car from the 90s. Oh, fuck, this bit's so confusing. So back in the control room, they establish the reason the Indominus is moving towards where everyone is due to its ability to detect thermal radiation. So they do remember that it exists and has that ability. So how did it not know Owen was under the fucking car? But before they do anything, Rotund Man Hoskins takes over and demands that the Raptors be released to take out the Indominus. I guess this sets up a reason for this to happen when Masrani explodes. Claire and Owen just miss the boys at the Nostalgia Museum before being jumped by the Indominus before it does the classic T-Rex pose in the original and gets distracted by a mounted machine gun on a non-army chopper. This is one of the funniest things in the movie, but I'm so fucking fucking over it at this point that at the moment I am not capable of laughter. The chopper would get buffeted from the insane recoil of this gun, especially considering that Masrani isn't that good of a pilot and is not trained specifically for this scenario, but their main issue is the bloodlusted pterodactyls that instantly attack them as soon as the glass breaks. Finally, we're back at the main park and the British lady calls Claire to say the boys have been found and she's making her way to them. During an evacuation. This woman deserves a raise, honestly. I would have forgotten about those cunts years ago. Also, I may have already said it, but the pterodactyl attack is the best scene in the movie. It's everything you want from a disaster film. Just absolute carnage and mass death and chaos. Air raid sirens going off, people screaming, violent deaths, you've got it all. Sure, it's stupid that all the flying fucks are oversized and want to kill everything in sight for no reason, but I don't care. This scene is amazing. I especially love the random guy running with his cocktails. Bro knows his priorities, and I definitely do the same. The only problems I have with this bit is the rotund InGen guy smiles while looking at everyone die, which is like, I get that he's the villain, but I didn't think he'd enjoy watching people suffer like this. There's a really nice 360 long take with a bunch of extras and chaos, and I don't know, man. I like this bit, but it is directly followed by Zara's death, so kind of everything, can we, Colin? All this shit makes me think about the amount of people that'll leave this place with extreme trauma and require years of therapy. The amount of children that see people get murdered will scar them for life and give them reoccurring nightmares. Psychologists would make absolute bank, especially in America. Claire saves Owen from a shockingly well-depicted dimorphodon, and they hook up while people get slaughtered around them. Poor timing if you ask me, but horniness knows no bounds. The main characters somehow find a parked and unlocked G-Wagon in the midst of all the chaos, just as a crowd of people burst through a giant gate. Imagine if they weren't sponsored by Mercedes. It'd be like Astroworld all over again.
We have the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon that gives an official look to the park.
Then it's nighttime, and the Indominus is yet to make an appearance anywhere. Surely it would have made it to the park by now, but I guess it's just been chilling, maybe watching porn or something. Chris Pratt then claims he's an alpha to two young boys, and they send the Raptors out to kill the Indominus. The boys have an emotional conversation in the back of a van, brought to you by Mercedes, and Owen rides with the Raptors. Also, I find it hilarious how the young worker guy presses the button to release the Raptors, thinking he's a fucking badass. Forget how the Raptors tried to kill anyone that fell in the enclosure earlier, now they're laser focused on killing a giant dinosaur. The once focused Raptors hesitate after finding the Indominus and have a nice chat. If the Indominus doesn't know what she is, as stated by other characters in the movie, how does it know how to communicate and what to communicate with? If it saw another dinosaur that it shared DNA with, would it be able to communicate with them? What exactly did the Indominus say to get the Raptors on its side? Usually becoming the alpha of a group of pack hunters is through shows of intimidation or combat, not a casual conversation. When I first watched this movie, I wondered why they let the dinosaurs communicate instead of just lighting the fuckers up, and I cheered when one soldier shot an RPG at them. It was so effective though, I don't know why they didn't just keep doing that. The next bit's pretty stupid. Everyone decides to engage in guerrilla warfare with dinosaurs in thick bush, rather than just staying in the open area that they started in where they can't easily surprise attack you. Owen also just ditches his friend in the middle of the rainforest with a giant dinosaur on the loose. Won't be the first time this character is just uneventfully seen for the last time in his movies. Some bleeding guy somehow makes it back to where Claire and the failed abortions are and opens the door to the product placement which allows a raptor to get in and follow through on the forced miscarriage. This event will 100% haunt their dreams forever. Instead of closing the doors, the boys decide to take on the creatures that took out a small militia force, with non-lethals too. Also, a raptor jumps through Claire's window somehow. I guess it's an expert in physics and ran all the relevant equations beforehand. The movie then spends a couple minutes setting up a sequel and we meet back with Claire and Owen near the main facility. Weren't the raptors literally following him? They can run faster than his bike. Where are they? But not to worry, Hoskins gets brutalized by one as he's explaining the concept of the Indoraptor, and to escape, the main cast use a hologram of a super incorrect Dilophosaurus to distract it. I'll do this one quickly. They don't have frills in real life, they're much bigger, and have crests on their heads. They also don't fucking spit venom. This dinosaur is completely made up. Owen then decides that the raptors that tried to murder him several times earlier in the movie are capable of complex thought, reasoning, and emotions, and manages to convince them to fight the Indominus with him, to which they get instantly murdered. Good job, Owen. Even though the Indominus has shown that it's more than capable of one-shotting a raptor, it lets the other surviving two jump on it with little to no resistance, and Owen takes shots at it with his pea shooter. Like, it tanked an RPG shot earlier. What the fuck are you doing? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the fourth raptor got blown up a few minutes earlier. Instead of running away, everyone else hides in a very, very close by merchandise stand, and Owen hides behind a translucent amber statue. Gray explains that they need more teeth to defeat the Indominus, like that's at all an accurate measurement of strength, and Claire somehow finds a flare inside a med cabinet, which is stupid. The only thing you find in those are stims. Both the other raptors get hilariously obliterated, and then the Indominus finds where the boys are hiding, because Owen ran straight to them. It manages to get hold of Gray's bum bag, or fanny pack if you're not from Vegemite land, and Zack and Owen somehow manage to resist the strength of the giant dinosaur. Ignoring the fact that the bum bag strap would instantly snap or break, there is no way that two people can outmuscle a dinosaur that obliterated a giant gate and flipped a car with seemingly little effort. But yeah, Gray should have fucking died here. Same thing with Claire, who outruns a fucking T-Rex in heels and in the wet. I understand that the T-Rex associates the flare with food, and people usually throw the flare, but surely it could easily outrun some businesswoman, or even just think Claire is the food. It's not like it's seen her before. And then the Indominus and T-Rex fight, because all the fucking dinosaurs in this franchise have beef with each other for no reason. It would be more realistic if the T-Rex got confused as to why the flare was thrown at the Indominus and just kind of stood there, because dinos like likely were pretty fucking stupid. And then the Indominus tested its strength like it's been doing the whole movie and fucking murders it. So, the dinosaurs fight, and it's a big CGI battle, and when all seems lost, Blue comes out of nowhere and somehow stops the Indominus from killing the T-Rex by making a noise. Blue also manages to jump on the Indominus, despite being completely destroyed by it before, and should be dead, or at least have broken bones. So, Rex and Blue do some epic combo moves, and then the Mosasaur fucking comes out of nowhere and finishes the job, signaling that the movie is finally almost over. Thank God. The T-Rex and Blue don't fight for some reason, or even try to eat the main cast, despite them being shown as highly aggressive killing machines throughout the whole fucking movie. The T-Rex even tried eating Owen while it was being pinned by the Indominus. So instead they just look at each other, communicating deep and complex emotions incapable of being dictated by even the most intelligent of scholars. In the final scene, we really see the impact of the divorce subplot. Just kidding. All that shit meant absolutely nothing and just wasted so much time, man. This is the last time we see the stupid fucking kids for the rest of the franchise, which you'd think would be a good thing, but they just somehow introduce even more annoying characters. I cannot believe I put myself up to this challenge. I cannot believe that I subjected myself to such torture. And I refuse to believe that this isn't even over and I have 2 more, even worse movies to talk about. If it wasn't clear already, I fucking hate this franchise. I think the characters are annoying and make dumb decisions only to service the plot. The dinosaurs are amazingly inaccurate to their real life counterparts, and something I didn't realize until dissecting this movie is they're full of filler. So much shit from the parental divorce scenes or the weird using dinosaurs in the army subplot can be cut down or completely removed, and the movie would remain mostly unaffected. Sure, there are parts of the movie I enjoy, like the design of the Indominus and the absolute carnage and chaos of some scenes, but it's just not enough for me to ignore all the stupid bullshit. So I get bored and I start to nitpick, and when I start to nitpick, I write an 11,000 word document on why I hate this fucking movie. I started writing all this about 2 months ago, but wrote the majority of it in about 3 days. It's more than double the length of the longest document I've ever written, which was for uni, and I didn't even need ChatGPT to help me. Even though it probably seems like I was hating this whole process and in agonizing pain throughout, which, I mean, I was, but I still really enjoyed making this horrendous piece of content. And in the past week, I've almost tripled my subscriber count, and that's acted as a real motivator for me. So thank you to everyone who follows and supports me. Being the longest video I've ever made by at least half an hour, there's bound to be some flow issues in the script, or, I don't know, just shit that may sound weird compared to other, more professional YouTubers. And while I try to iron out any out-of-place segments, it's not going to be perfect, but with time I will get better. Regardless on how this video performs, I'll still make videos about the 2 other movies, which I guarantee will be longer and more hate-filled, especially the 3rd one. I don't plan on talking about the original trilogy at the moment, mostly because I feel like they aren't nearly as bad, and I don't want to be a movie reviewing channel, but I'm not entirely opposed to going into them in less detail sometime in the future. For the 3 people that made it all the way through this hunk of garbage, I hope you enjoyed my nonsensical rant about this stupid movie overlaid with Lego game footage. What the fuck am I doing? Please hesitate to like, subscribe, and comment. After all, I do this for free. And I don't know if I'll see you in the next video because I haven't started editing yet and I might not survive.